What do you do once you've mastered Hitman? You make it harder for yourself. I want to challenge those of you that have gotten comfortable in the shoes of Agent 47 to turn off some of the game's HUD and other safety features, and I'm going to argue why I think the game is actually better without them. But I want to be clear that there is no correct way to play Hitman, and I'm in no way throwing shade if you don't play this way or even need these features in order to play the game. HUD elements are tools that can help people, and they're there for a reason. I just want to present the experience that can be gained by removing them, because I think doing so shines an even greater emphasis on the game's fantastic design and pushes you to play differently. So strap in, hit the like and sub button, and let's dive into the exciting world of turning off menu settings. If there's one thing I'd love for you to take away from this video, it's to try the game without mission story guidance. The default Hitman missions can be solved in countless ways, but they all have optional story missions, which ask you to perform a series of specific scripted objectives to trigger your targets into a situation that conveniently leads to murder. Well, almost all of them. We'll get to that. When set to default as full, the game will give you pretty clear details on what you need to do to trigger events for a particular story, and will give you a waypoint you just need to follow. It's a nice system for those that need a helping hand early on when still learning how the game works. But once you understand things better, you can switch to minimal, which turns the waypoint off but still gives you a general clue as to what to do next. This is how I typically play the game, as it still guides me on what the game wants to trigger the next part of the story mission, but leaves me free to discover how to do that on my own. If you're feeling really spicy, you can completely turn it off, giving you no hints whatsoever, including disabling the story mission menu. The story opportunities still exist, but they're no longer presented as obvious objectives. They fade into the background as another small part of the grand clockwork system that makes up these levels, and it's a lot of fun to play this way. In fact, if you've already played all the way through Hitman 3, you've had an opportunity to try this for yourself with the Berlin mission, which has no handler and therefore no story missions. However, that mission still has scripted moments that are absolutely story-like missions, just without calling them that. And that's basically what you're getting throughout the entire experience if you choose to turn mission story guidance off. You'll find yourself soaking up information, eavesdropping on NPCs, and parsing out any useful details you can exploit. Hot tip: if you have subtitles on, any dialogue that shows up usually contains a clue that can potentially help you in some way. They are also smartly written to provide you with all the information you need. For example, in Sapienza, if you walk into this hair salon, you'll overhear a conversation where an employee is talking about his private detective brother, who is in town on a case for Francesca De Santes, who is one of our targets. Naturally, this leads you to the conclusion that this PI could help you get closer to her, and conveniently, they mention where to find him, sleeping on a bench a few blocks away. So, you explore the surrounding area, and lo and behold, there he is. You can wake him up with the radio, and then listen to his phone conversation with Francesca, where he plans to meet her by the pier. At which point, you might get the clever idea to knock out the PI and pretend to be him at the meeting. Now, if you were to follow the guided instructions, it still leads to the same result, but that's just it. You're following instructions. You don't get that moment where you feel clever for finding the detective and thinking to yourself, aha, I should disguise myself as him for the meeting, rather than just doing it because the game told you to. The guided objective also leads you down the one path where you can meet Francesca as the PI, when this setup actually leads to a whole host of solutions. You could leave the PI alone and stake out the pier, gathering more information from their conversation, and then follow Francesca and see where she goes. You could place explosives at the meeting point. Or you could find a strategic sniper vantage point on top of the church tower. Or if you head to the ancient ruins, you'll find an old cannon which just so happens to be pointed at the pier where the meeting is taking place.
Target down. Next up, Silvio Caruso.
What's fun about these outcomes is that you thought of them. It was your cleverness that put a plan into action. The guides end up being the most boring way to play Hitman. I'm glad they exist, and I think they are a great tool to use while still learning the ins and outs of how Hitman works. But once you feel comfortable, I'd recommend turning them off. The other big crutch you'll find yourself relying on is instincts, or Hitman vision. At the press of a button, you can see enemy outlines through walls, interactive objects, and the locations of your targets at any time, regardless of where you are. Like with the story missions, it's a great addition to the series, first added in Absolution, to make it more approachable. But once you start getting comfortable and want to up the challenge, you should turn it off. This will completely change the way you approach stealth. Learning guard patterns is more critical, and peeking around corners before entering rooms becomes vital. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna feel bad at first. It's easy to become reliant on instincts after using it for so long, and you're gonna keep hitting that button like the video game equivalent of a phantom limb. But what you get in its place is an undeniably satisfying stealth experience, where you need to not only plan out your approach more carefully, but also take a leap of faith and be ready to improvise.
Oi, you need to
You also have more room for error than you might think. Enemy alert states still take enough time to trigger that you can dart out of their line of sight, run away to another part of the map, and the search will eventually be called off. Having the godlike power to see through walls is fun, but taking it away ups the thrill and danger. It really makes you feel like you've earned the hit. Man. Sorry. Honestly, if you walk away from this video and turn just story mission guidance and instincts off and call it good there, I am more than happy, thrilled even. Thank you so much for willing to listen to what I had to say and try something new. The removal of just these two elements changes the game quite a lot, but if you're looking to chase an even higher thrill, there's still plenty more we can do. Turning off Instincts mode may remove 47's X-ray vision, but you still have a lot of that same information on the minimap. You actually have a few options when it comes to removing it. Of course, you can just disable it outright, but if you have trouble with spatial awareness and need the minimap, you can also disable just the NPC and target indicators, while still keeping the minimap up as well as useful information like letting you know you're trespassing. But now we get to the real dangerous stuff. NPC icons are the white little dots above a person's head that tell you when they will see through your disguise. Turning this off makes the game incredibly difficult, especially when it comes to enforcers. Removing this is perhaps a step too far for me personally, where disabling features like story guides works because the game offers other ways to convey that information to you. In this case, you don't have any visual way of knowing who will become suspicious of you. Realistic? Sure, but it pushes the game to a level of hardcore that becomes harder to recommend. Same goes for the game's attention alert indicator. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna turn it off. We'll also disable camera grids to make it more difficult to avoid showing up on surveillance footage. Now let's see, what else? Picture-in-picture? Don't really need that. Weapon HUD? Nah. You know what? Why don't we just turn everything off? That is the purpose of this video, after all, right? And then, because I want to suffer, I'll set the difficulty to Master, which adds extra cameras and enforcers, makes combat tougher and NPCs more alert to sound, getting blood on your outfit ruins the disguise, and finally, you only get one save and no autosaves. Let's see how I do. To make it fair, I'm not going to do any of the story missions that I know how to do.
Sorry it took so long, but I had to access our remote server to print everything, and I couldn't get my VPN to...
Oh, I can definitely disguise myself as that
Sorry,
guy.
Shit. Ah!
Aaron Ford Jr. Don Yates is expecting me.
Okay, right this way, Mr. Ford.
Damn, this is too easy. Alright, well, I already up. Sorry. No, I should have just knocked him out. That was rude. That was really mean. What? Oh, God!
targeted.
Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no.
Is that a Gira Cuckoo?
You got something to hide?
No. Oh. I'm saving here. This is my save point. Oh, oh, God, oh.
Let me know if you see any trespassers.
Will do, sir.
It's done.
Well, I can safely say that was one of the most frustrating and yet rewarding stealth experiences of my life. Was it worth it? As a one-time experience, I'd say yes. I don't think I could possibly handle playing the whole game that way on the regular, and I'd really only recommend it to the most patient of players. But really, that was me just having fun with the most extreme of examples. The beauty of Hitman is in its options. You can mix and match any of these different features I've talked about to find the best version of Hitman for you. What I hope is that this video has encouraged you to break out of your comfort zone and give some of these a try. It might just make an already fantastic game even better. I had a lot of fun making this video, as the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy is one of my favorite games, period. If you end up giving any of this a try, let me know your experience in the comments. One of my favorite parts about Hitman is the stories people share of their spectacular successes or failed attempts, and I'd love to hear some. Catch you all next time.